And I think the folks at that meeting are going to enjoy this so much. Doesn't that look delicious? Guten gardening, everybody. Now, at my workplace, one of the traditions that we have is that we hold monthly meetings and there's a different person responsible for bringing the food in. And I'm actually going to use this harvest today to put together some vegetables for that meeting tomorrow. And isn't that a wonderful part about gardening just in general? Our ability to share with other people. Of course, our family loves what we produce, but now we can share some of that with other people. And some of the things that I'm going to bring in might not be what you would typically think of on a vegetable tray at the store. So let's harvest some of these vegetables. Some of them obviously very common and a great addition to any veggie tray. And some of them, well, maybe the people at work won't have considered eating raw before, but now they're going to enjoy the deliciousness. And we're going to start with some of these green beans. You know, I think a lot of times people are very familiar with eating snap peas raw, but green beans might not be at the top of everybody's list. Now, some of these green beans are too big. I would say they'll probably be a little too tough. So I'm going to take some of the ones that are a little bit smaller, and this will be part of what we're going to enjoy on our tray. And normally I would just keep them whole, but I think I'm going to slice them a little bit smaller so people can sample the smaller pieces. And then these longer beans here, the ones that are a little bit bigger, well, they'll just become something that we eat here at the house. But adding beans to, I think, a veggie tray is going to be really nice. It's really something so nice and fresh and earthy about these green beans. And really, even the bigger ones, even though it seems they're a little bit more fibrous, they're still so delicious. So this is going to make a great addition. And I'll be interested to see how many people enjoy this. I know I'm going to. And these will be really good in a little dip too. They don't need a dip, but maybe a ranch dip. So good. Now the beans I was just picking were pole beans. These are some bush beans growing in one of our green stalk leaf systems. They're still here after all this time. I honestly don't know how much life they're going to have left in them, but I'm going to take advantage of these green beans as well. You can see some of these plants are definitely dying back now at this point, but they'll get a mixture. Maybe they'll see which ones they like the best. Now, if beans are on the slightly uncommon side for a veggie tray for something like this, these next two are going to be a little bit more common. We're going to start with some cauliflower. But what might be a little bit uncommon is the coloration of this cauliflower. Now, this one you can see just a little bit here. It looks almost like a little bit of browning. I've tried to be very careful. You can see the leaves have been over top of this. I broke them over there. They've been over top since this started developing. And I think overall this is still pretty nice. Now, this is not the biggest cauliflower out there, but I think this is going to feed us nicely. Isn't that beautiful? And that purple underneath, isn't that so cool? All right, so that's going to be cut up here. By the way, I'm going to show you the finished amounts of everything once it's all chopped up and ready. And then I'm going to add this broccoli. Now, this I think you'll find maybe a little bit interesting. Unfortunately, this one looks like it's starting to open up a little bit, but I'm going to get it just in time. But do you see all these baby florets all over the place? You see this? All of these coming on the same plant. That's because down here was the original head that we cut off about, I would say 3 weeks ago. And then we've got the development of all these florets as well. So we're going to take advantage of that and we're going to cut these florets off. And I think the folks at that meeting are going to enjoy this so much. Doesn't that look delicious? Well, we've got our beans, cauliflower, and broccoli at this point. And I want to add something that some of the folks that I work with have probably never tried before, and that is some kohlrabi. Now, kohlrabi, for those of you who've never had it, is like a mild broccoli stem. That's the most common description I've seen, and I agree with it. So we're going to take one out of our containers here on our patio garden. Now, I think the important thing to remember, and I'm just going to twist this off because the soil here is going to make it difficult to pull up one-handed, but the important thing to remember about kohlrabi is you do not want to leave this in the ground too long or it's going to get really woody. The stem down here is already nice and hard, but the flesh inside should be crisp and crunchy. I think the texture is similar to an apple once this is all peeled back. So we're going to take this and cut this up into slices. Again, they're going to get this nice and raw, which tastes really good. And you know what? I'm adding something that I didn't expect to add but I just noticed it here. There's some potatoes underneath here that I need to harvest, but a couple of seeds, it appears to me, from a few of our radishes from the spring apparently flew over into these bags of potatoes. And these, I think, well, this one anyway, was a daikon radish. Now I know for a fact not everyone's a big fan of radishes. However, the garden radishes, I tell you, have a different taste than what you get at the store for whatever reason. Now I didn't grow very many tomatoes this year, but we do have some volunteers, and I'm gonna harvest a couple right now. There aren't that many in here, but again, these volunteer cherry tomatoes, they tend to be really nice and sweet. Get them off here before they crack. I love adding some garden candy to share with people. It's one of my favorite things to share because I think they're so delicious. And I think once you've tried this, you're gonna wanna grow tomatoes. Oh, all right, that's a handful right there. And I've got some more to get out of here. And I got a couple, just a few yellow volunteers in here. And those are gonna be really the icing on top, the tomato cake here. Okay, that didn't sound nearly as good when I said it out loud as it sounded in my head. These are wonderful. Now, as per my policy, one of these unfortunately isn't gonna make it to that little meal tomorrow. Gotta eat that garden candy. Now, I don't know if this looks like much to you, but I think this is coming together nicely. What do you see when I put it all together? But we're not done yet. We're gonna add one of my personal favorites that most people don't eat raw. And I'm gonna get this from a couple of different spots in the garden, but I'm gonna come over to my raised bed where I've got some Adirondack blue potatoes growing as well, alongside these beets. And I'm gonna grab one of these raw beets. And of course, this is just my opinion, but beets are one of the most underrated vegetables to eat raw. I just don't think most people do it. If you do, let us know in the comments. And I'm gonna get a couple out of my green stock here in my front yard garden space. This one is, speaking of space, this one is really nice, taking up a good bit of space. We've been harvesting some of our beets out of here, out of this green stock. It's just a original 5-tier green stock, and they're looking good. I got a ton of beets in here still, ton of beets in here still growing, but I'm gonna add that to our harvest. Now we're starting to get pretty colorful with this, I think, and of course I've got to add one more, and those are some sweet peppers. So I've got a California Wonder right here that's starting to turn, so it's pretty colorful. Hasn't turned the whole way, that beautiful bright red color. And I'm gonna add some green ones as well. I thought about maybe bringing some of my jalapenos, but these are really hot this year, especially the ones that have turned red. So instead, I'm gonna add a couple of our banana peppers here. See the difference in color there? And then a couple of our California Wonders from our green stalk. So this is a 7-tier leaf system, and I'm just filled up with peppers right now. We'll see if they have time to ripen up. I got these planted late, so some are a little bit smaller, but you can see I got a ton of peppers on here, a ton of peppers in this bed overall. This one's starting to turn right here. You see how it's gotten darker. I'm gonna take a couple of these off of here and add to this. And then I'm gonna start putting it all together. Now, I almost just made a huge mistake because I think I said I had one more thing to collect, and that was the peppers, but that's not true. I have one more thing to collect, and that is something that's gonna be life-changing, I think, and that's garden fresh celery. Now, this is where I need those of you in the comments to back me up, because I'll be honest with you, I don't love the taste of celery when it's purchased from the store, because I think it tastes like a whole lot of nothing most of the time, and that's not really my cup of tea. If I'm gonna eat a vegetable, I want it to have some flavor. But garden fresh, and this is how we harvest our celery, by the way, we don't cut everything down. Garden fresh celery does not taste like nothing. In fact, I would say every little bit of this, from the leaves down to the end of the stalk here, has the most vibrant celery flavor you could imagine. I mean, It is strong. This stuff is so good when it's juiced. It's so good in general. I think they're gonna love this celery. Now we have the foundation of the vegetables that I'm gonna provide, and I'm gonna put this all together. I think this is quite a bit. I think they're going to enjoy this. I want you to see what this all looks like. The inside of this beet looks like a Rorschach test. There's a face in there, isn't there? Now our broccoli has been soaking in salt water for about 15 minutes to get rid of any critters, so I'm going to cut that down. So this is where we ended up with this little vegetable tray for tomorrow, and I'm going to argue that this is going to be super tasty. Every little piece of this, lots of different colors. I'll mix it together nicely on the plate, and I really hope they enjoy this as a part of the meeting. I think it's going to make for a better and more cheerful meeting. What do you think? Hey, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment. Remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.